Hello, everyone. Ingrid here from No More Noise Toronto, giving you a summary of the two strategy meetings that we had this past week on Thursday and Saturday. Thanks to everyone who made time to attend. But if you didn't attend, well, now you get to have a summary. So let's get into it. Okay, so what we're going to cover now is a brief little introduction, what we do and how, looking ahead, next steps, how you can help us, and upcoming events that you can join us for. So who is No More Noise Toronto? Well, we're a group that's focused on the noises that wake us up, keep us up, and disturb us day and night. We're a grassroots organization that's data and process oriented, and we're engaged in the civic process at City Hall. And we're pleased to be collaborating with a number of like-minded community groups, companies, and universities. And we're also very happy to also be collaborating with City of Toronto divisions. We have the best relationship with Municipal Licensing and Standards, who enforces the noise bylaws, Toronto Police Services. We've had discussions with them, as well as 311, which is our noise reporting service, and also Toronto Public Health and the Toronto Board of Health. We're also very pleased to be a part of the external working group for the City of Toronto for the night economy, and we were recently on a panel for their town hall. So who we are, we're a community of people whose health is suffering from noise pollution, and we're learning about it from each other in a respectful environment. And we're participating in the engagement process. There's many people that have spoken to city councilors, spoken to their own councilors, sent in emails. Thank you for that. We're also working with stakeholders, such as the city, to find acceptable solutions. So we've learned that we've actually have, as No More Noise Toronto, we've got two customers. Number one is the advocates. That's you and I. And we're the people that have had it with noise pollution, and we're willing to do something to make it stop. And so what we want to be provided is tools and support and specific actions so that we can push for change in our cities. And then the cities are the recipients of those actions, and they're the stakeholders that are hearing from us and know that they need to find solutions. And we will help them find the solutions long-term through a consulting model. So in the future, hopefully revenue from the city's activities will then support the advocates' actions. Noise is a global issue, and everywhere cities are getting more dense and more loud. And I have found that people beyond Toronto are watching us, seeing what we do, they're interested, and they're joining us. So one of the things that we're going to do in the future is to support that growing reach is we'll work on a transition to using nomorenoise.ca and then /city, so that way there is that local feel and people can have, and cities can have their own web pages on the No More Noise webpage. And this is a great lead into that we're built to scale up. When I started No More Noise Toronto, this was post-pandemic or in the pandemic, actually. And I realized that we can create a virtual community. And through the technology that we use, it doesn't matter if we do a meeting or a webinar for 5 or 500. And it doesn't matter if they're in Toronto or if they're across the world. So we can be active on a hyper local scale, right down to the postal code, to a global reach with the same technology. And the idea is that we encourage other cities to do the same. So we will make a toolkit that can be adapted for use by other cities. And we'll support that advocacy with technological expertise, such as campaign software, so it's easier for people to advocate for less noise. And so while we are very much a virtual community, we must act locally for a number of very good reasons, which I'll get into. And so why are we doing this now? Well, partly it's because now we know that noise impacts our health. The research there doesn't need to be any more research. It's just how noise impacts our health. And we keep diving into that. How does sleep deprivation impact us? Significantly, so it turns out. Our cities are becoming more dense. That means there's more people, there's more hard surfaces, which creates a greater impact because that extends the reach of city noise or street level noise. Our cities need to become more accessible and inclusive, so that means reducing noise. Noise is also a climate issue, increased emissions from modified vehicles, greater use of air conditioning because outside is just not a nice place to be, and we can't sleep with our windows open. And if you don't have AC, then you have no protection from heat events, or if it's broken down like mine currently is. Technology exists to solve the issues, so that's another important milestone that we've reached recently. And also elected officials, they know it's a problem but don't know what to do about it. So if you've been to a city and to a meeting with your counselor and you've asked about noise and they kind of go, yeah, well, it's they might even say that it's not a problem. Every counselor knows it's a problem. They just don't know what to do about it. So that's why we're here to help them. So what we do and how? Well, here it is. So it's taken me a while to figure out how this is going to work, but No More Noise basically has two arms. One is advocacy. So again, that's us. And then the other part is the technology piece, that city building piece. So and the advocacy pushes the need for technology. So what we're doing is we've started working groups by noise source. We had our initial meetings in January, February, and March of this year. We want to educate and engage residents, elected officials. I should have added city staff in there as well. And then we can also advocate for municipal campaigns, provincial campaigns, and federal campaigns. And then if all else fails, there's legal action. So we need to look at that as well. On the technology side, we can present solutions to cities and municipalities through noise audits, presenting ideas on how to implement noise cameras, assist them in asking the province for permission to do noise cameras, area sound level monitoring, and also crowdsourced data. And this is where I believe that by equipping and engaging us to push for change, then that will create the political will through our councillors and other elected officials for change. So right now, we are currently doing, most of our issues are in the city of Toronto. So we have email campaigns and we speak on noise items at City of Toronto committees, and we're building these working group and task forces for different noise sources. But every city is slightly different. So, we do need to look at how that builds out. And so in the future, we will do provincial campaigns for public health and motor vehicle noise, because that's naturally where those items sit. And then we'll also engage other municipalities, assist other communities, and look at federal initiatives as well. So I mentioned the working groups and task forces. The goal of these groups is to develop internal expertise, distribute the work, and develop actions for specific noise sources, because every noise source has its own little bucket and its own little nuances. So that's why not one person can actually know it all. It is impossible. So that's where we're looking for that, developing that internal expertise. We had those initial working group meetings. Almost all noise sources were represented. But there's some that are more popular than others, and motor vehicle noise is always the number one noise source. No matter where I ask it, it's always the number one. So I'm going to continue leading that working group, because that will have the most benefit for the most people. And we're holding space for others to lead or co-lead other groups. I am part of the City of Toronto's external working group for the night economy, as previously mentioned. So amplified sound is covered in that, which is the second most common noise source. So with these two, we're covering the top noise sources that bother most people. So here is how those noise sources are regulated. You can see I got 3 columns at the top: municipal, provincial, and federal. And then along the side is different noise sources. Most noise sources you can advocate for municipally for change, but you can let your councillor know that sirens and backup beepers bother you, even if it's mandated by the province. The more they hear about it, the more they're likely to push the province to do something, or the more we coalesce around something to push for change. So who can we contact if we want to make change? And this is where on the left-hand side, you'll see personal influence. We have really high personal influence on the municipal level. And some people will have that on the provincial level, but federally is where we have low personal influence, unless you are one of those people that's highly connected. But this is where I've got a list here of who we can contact in these different jurisdictions. And then what actions can we take in those jurisdictions? Well, this is all Canada, basically, so waiver there. In Canada, we can develop a list of contacts at the federal level, introduce ourselves to national organizations. We can also do national campaigns, which I didn't actually list in there, so the PDF deck will be updated. Provincially, we can also create campaigns and petitions. You can send personal emails to your MPP. I think we can speak to committees at Queen's Park, but I'm not quite sure. Of course, we can contact the media, and we can make driving complaints to local police. Municipally is where you have the most influence again, right? So we can do all of those other things that we can do at the province, we can do also on the municipal level. And in fact, it's easier on the municipal level. We also have global reach. And so that's where, when you participate in a survey, in our health surveys or amplified sound or whatever surveys we may have on the No More Noise Toronto, for now, website, that information is available globally, and that technology is infinitely scalable. You can also join a group and advocate for less noise in your city if one already exists, or start one in your city. So when I talk about campaigns, that is where we actually use a software called New Mode. And it's fairly straightforward to use, but not necessarily for every user, every person who would wants to advocate against noise. So this is where I believe that as No More Noise Toronto, No More Noise, we can support other organizations through this software. So we can run local to national campaigns. We are able to create our own email recipients, which change.org is not able to do. You're able to find one. We're able to list 10 or more, but have each email get sent to at least 10 recipients. And we can run multiple campaigns at once. We could run a campaign in Toronto, we could run a campaign in Guelph, we could run a campaign in Vancouver. There's no limit to that. So that's where we want to support other groups and other cities. So what are the types of campaigns that we can do? Well, provincially, there's probably the Highway Traffic Act and the Ministry of Health. There's also federal campaigns. We could also do broader campaigns like to associations, like for the construction industry. What if they were to, we were to lobby for them to actually have noise mitigation, not just noise reporting in contracts? And then there's also tactical local email campaigns. I've heard of people that want to actually advocate for their local street to become a quiet residential area. We can support in that area. We can support in that. We can also do possibly a campaign to the City of Toronto to create a noise task force or a working group. There's infinite number of ways that we can structure this. The other thing that we want to make sure that we do is then when we have those campaigns is that we push for technology to be the solution. Noise pollution will never be solved or mitigated by adding more people to enforce the noise bylaws. It makes it subjective and it's not available 24/7, extremely resource intensive. So we also need to rewrite the bylaws for technology and thoughtfully deploy the technology. Which would allow officers to take care of the just-in-time noise issues and those other weird ones that technology won't manage, which would provide better service to residents and better results. The other thing with technology is that it starts to integrate with other smart city technology to provide just-in-time historical data, provide alerts right to municipal licensing and standards, and active management of noise issues. Up in the top right, which might have my face in their net right now, there's a area sound level monitor that's made by a company in Halifax called Livable Cities, and on the bottom are the noise cameras that are in use right now in New York City. So on that line of technology, we want to present sound solutions to cities. And so right now, I am registered as a lobbyist for those three companies that you see, Intelligent Instruments, Not Allowed, and Noise End. And on December 9th in 2024, we had Ruben Peckham from Intelligent Instruments to present to the City of Toronto staff and the public on SoundView noise cameras that are in use in New York City. And in the top over on the right is a fun little article of where I made the top lobbyist in Toronto. So then we have legal considerations. So corporately right now, we're currently grassroots and we're in discussions with Small Change Fund to be written under their insurance for advisors and directors so that we can create a board of directors or advisors. And then this way the decisions aren't only mine. And plus then we have a much greater wisdom and expertise and knowledge in making the decisions and how we move forward. I am open to becoming a not-for-profit as well. It's just that's a consideration for cost, time, talent, all of those good things. And then there's also the legal consideration of our activism. If all else fails, and we have gone to the municipal, the provincial, and the federal levels, or even municipally, what can we do? Well, maybe small claims court is an option. Lots of people have mentioned class action lawsuits, so we need to investigate that. And then I also really want to understand. I want to understand what risks we face and what we may face. So let's look ahead. And so this is where I was been talking about this board of directors. So here is a slide, and I'm apologizing for the formatting on this. I used a PowerPoint organization chart, and it's been nothing but a problem, but it's going to get fixed, but not today. So at the top, you have me as president. And then if we want to do a not-for-profit, you can see that we need a treasurer, secretary, and a vice chair. I've got You can tell I gave up on this slide. We've got six advisor positions, and then you can see some of the buckets that would be underneath those. A green heart means it's critical to fill. A kind of a peachy fill means that I already have a verbal commitment for a director of in that area. And again, this is just a starting point. We'll see how this develops over time, but there's lots to do, and it's exciting. So what are these advisor roles going to look like? I've been thinking about that. Some will be passive for advice only, the health and research one probably, and some will be active and take on specific tasks and participate regularly. And so what would be my expectations of that? Well, I'd like to have a monthly one-on-one with everyone who is an advisor, or as is agreed upon. If there's a lot of work to be done, maybe we meet weekly. That is to be determined between myself and that person. And then we'll have group meetings bi-monthly. Um, and then I will always take notes with Zoom AI, AI Companion, and those will be shared with everyone. And they're actually not too bad. So they'll be shared very quickly. And then I will ask people to respond to emails. If I have a question specifically, it'd be nice to get a timely response. And then there might be some small meetings and stuff on an ad hoc basis, but I want it to be not a huge time commitment and also a flexible time commitment. So you can indicate your interest by either scanning that QR code or by completing this form. For our financial model, in the near term, right now we just have free content. So we'll probably change that to have some premium content somehow. We also want to develop monthly donations to increase that group so that we know that we have our costs covered on a monthly basis. Major gifts are also a consideration, and we're working on those. We need to put together a business plan and all those good things for those. But then also having sponsorship or grants, grant writing, and that all becomes possible once we become a not-for-profit. So there's a certain glass ceiling that we're starting to bump up against. Longer term, I'd love to have a noise action plan consulting program that cities purchase, which would fund local advocacy. So I've mentioned communications a number of times. It's my weakest point, and I apologize for all of that. I'm behind in some things, and it's something that I continuously work on. On the left, you can see our current state. On the right, you can see our future state. Future, like we have a website that I now manage, and I'm looking to do a blog post there in one spot with notifications so that if you want to know about amplified sound and I post hashtag amplified sound, you would get a notification. But you wouldn't get a notification if I put hashtag sirens if you don't subscribe for sirens. And this is one place that then I can put all my information because there's so much going on that I actually get stuck with social media. And I don't get brain freeze often, but with social media, I really do. Yet in the Facebook group, we have 451 followers, and there's a community there. There's a group of people that care about each other, that reach out, and it's really quite nice. Blue Sky, there's followers. I've got 1,600 there, 97 on Instagram, 54 on YouTube. And YouTube is something that I think we can really develop over those other channels because there is also community, and we can post video content, which we can have audio, video, and decibels. And there can be shorter posts from me, and you can upload your annoying noise videos. And then that way we kind of generate this community there. And also LinkedIn will be a forum that I need to develop more because we're going to have smart city technology, and we can post on a lot of really good things. Toronto Public Library, we are part of their curriculum for speaking engagements, and I got 6 bookings so far this year, and I think we'll do this again in 2026 because it's a really nice way to get into communities. So what's next? I asked my Saturday group this. I didn't ask the Thursday group this, but I presented 2 options. Local action, concentrate on getting local Toronto support by targeting residents associations and community groups with an intro letter, ask to present at the meetings, get them to sign on, and create basically a membership drive to drive reach. It's not very well written. And then equip Toronto residents to take action to fight noise, or do we go to provincial campaigns? Because many people want to see action on motor vehicle noise. And also there is right now, the province is looking at the public health mandates, which noise is omitted from, and we could campaign to have noise added to that. However, in talking with the group, they really wanted to have number one, because they felt that, and I agree, that we need to have a really strong base in Toronto. And the other reason for considering option one versus option two is that Doug Ford is now looking at making changes to speed cameras, and we've kind of looked at speed cameras as the model for how noise cameras would come into the province. So it's all about ROI. And right now, I'm not sure that we're actually going to get good return on our investment if we do a provincial campaign. So we need to build our foundation. And we also need a Toronto win. So this is where we look at increasing membership, having tables at events, and this is where I need you to be the eyes and ears for community events that No More Noise Toronto could be a part of. Again, public library speaking engagements and having better communication. And that's why that communication advisor role is a critical fill. Corporate structure, a board of advisors would certainly help, and let's get that in order and become a not-for-profit. Let's make those decisions so that then when we go to the provincial level and possibly start getting bigger attention, we are protected, we know our risks, and we can move forward confidently. And then we also need to create a Toronto toolkit. If what residents need in Toronto is probably what residents need in Peterborough, what residents need in Sarnia. So, let's get that toolkit working and get people like myself and like many of you, when there's a community event, that we can go there and we can be well represented. And lastly, we need fundraising. So an increase of monthly donors, major gifts and grants. So that's what's happening. That's what we're going to focus on in the near future, which will propel us to provincial action. So, and that's where, how far can this go, right? Like, nobody is doing noise like we are. Toronto can be a world leader in reducing noise pollution, and we can help them show the way. And imagine if Toronto became the best city in the world to have a good sleep and have a engaging and vibrant nightlife. And by the way, vibrant doesn't equal loud. So one city at a time, we can equip them and mobilize them. And with the collaborations with Esri, which is the Geographical Information Systems company, the largest in the world, and Quiet Communities, that is the largest US-based anti-noise group, and others in Europe and elsewhere, we could easily push this to a global movement. There's a bunch of us that are already connected. We're just kind of waiting to see how this all develops. So we can help solve cities' noise through a consulting model that will also fund further actions in other areas. So how you can help: if you haven't already, sign up for Noise News. That means you'll get a newsletter about once a month and a couple action alerts probably on a monthly basis. You can join our Facebook group where there's a lot of collaboration and communication, I should say. Also join a working group. So that's where right now you can join a working group, either a communications working group or one of the other ones, and then we'll organize people there. And maybe that's where our subject matter experts will come in for construction, for stationary noise sources. Also, if you don't want to join a working group, but you want to be a little bit more engaged and informed, fill out our member form. And that's where, for example, recently the two-stroke engines came up to Toronto City Council. And I was able to just search that membership base for leaf blowers. And anybody that mentioned a leaf blower got a quick email that if they wanted to send an email to the city to ban leaf blowers, they could. This is how we can equip you to take action. You can also make a tax deductible donation. Monthly ones are very much appreciated. A small change fund provides tax deductible ones. So you can check out our new website, and also let me know if you're interested in becoming an advisor or a director by completing that form. And all the links will be in the chat or in the comments. And lastly, this is going to timestamp this presentation, but upcoming events. We've got motor vehicle task force meetings this coming Thursday and Saturday. No More Noise Toronto, a meetup. We've got Sound Off, which is the silent disco. Those are the headphone people, which would be great for some gyms that I know of. Also maybe some outdoor festivals. Castell is the CEO of that company. And then we've got a couple Toronto Public Library events as well. So you can see all the different branches, and some of them are going into May and June, and now we're starting to book into September. So that's it, my friends. Let's create better cities by reducing noise. So there you have it. That was longer than I actually was hoping for, but there was a lot to cover, and the actual slide deck where all of those lives is about 60 slides. So thanks so much. This movement has so much more support than I ever thought it would. When I was yelling outside my condo window at the mufflers waking me up, I thought I was the only one. And many of you have shared with me that you felt really alone in your misery and in your suffering. And you're not. And there's things that we can do. And the world is kind of crazy right now. And there's a lot of things that we feel that, we have no control over, we have no power to change. With noise, you do. You do have power and you do have influence. And we aim to give you the tools to make a difference so that we can all have a better sleep, better health, and a better quality of life. So thanks so much. I wish you a great day, and I always wish you a good sleep. Take care, everyone.